everyone.
Hi,
My name is M9.
and I'm Nixie, and this
And this is Out of Character. Hello, everyone. It is episode 18 of Out of Character. Welcome back to
Hi everybody.
Nixie. We have a couple of stuff to announce, but before that, for if you are new, just so that you are aware, this is a podcast where we talk about everything involving the roleplay community. And
Everything from talking as players, server owners, modders, what's happening, drama, as much as we can, really, about the community and otherwise.
Yeah, we try to just mix it up every now and then. And yeah, so if you are new to RPing or new to the show, welcome. This is going to be one of those episodes where we're just going to talk about things that aren't directly connected to us, but maybe, affect us in one way or another in our aspects of, role playing and the community as it is.
Well, we're tabletop players too,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't particularly play DnD. I play Pathfinder 2e. But it does kind of there are decisions kind of have been affecting the rest of the tabletop sphere, so it's definitely stuff we want to talk about.
Yeah. I wish I played tabletop more than what I do, to be honest. I love D&D. And I, that type of thing. Pathfinder I'm hoping to maybe get into at one point or another.
Oh,
but
it's so much fun.
It's always one of those things where it's like finding a DM, or when you do it with people online, scheduling is so complicated, and
I play with Australians, so I definitely understand that problem.
Mm-hmm.
They play at 7:00 in the morning on Tuesdays during the summer. If it's in the winter, it's 3:30 in the morning, so I can't play with them.
Oh no, I am good. But just have Chat GPT fill in for me.
Well, I definitely like playing with them because my boyfriend runs the game,
Mm-hmm.
and I have sometimes made maps for them and stuff. But
yeah, I've seen some of those stuff
I can only play in the summer because once time zones change like crazy, it's literally they start at 3:30, 4 in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm like I can't do that.
No,
I can
that's
do
a little
7.
rough.
7 is about 6:30. This is about half an hour before I start work anyway, so I can do that.
Yeah, I was waking up super early to play Raft with Jess and John for a bit.
That makes sense.
And yeah, so I can understand that sometimes you got to make a sacrifice. 3 a.m. is not going to happen, though. That's not going to happen.
Playing with Australians.
Playing with Australians, yeah. So before we get to the nitty gritty of our episode, we do have a couple of announcements. Haven't exactly gone over them, so Nixie just kind of follow my lead, I guess. First of all, we have the server that Nixie and I are going to be admins on for Conan. That is going to go live this Friday. So if you guys want to kind of, get a firsthand experience of how we role play and the community and the type of server that we play on, you can come check us out. And that is actually listed on the directory that Nixie has going. So
yes,
check that out. Section. Or check out any other server that's on the list. We're not trying to force you to play with us.
No, but it is something that if you are interested, we'll be there to talk about things, to help you out. If you have questions, you can message us and we can actually do something about it.
Right. Yeah, and
it's a great way to get into the community.
Very beginner friendly as well. We're all kind of understanding of that learning curve and all that type of stuff. So if you want to check us out there. Also, there's going to be a couple of changes to OOC as it is, in the next couple of weeks or so. We're probably just going to be doing a couple of different things and making a couple of changes. But in order to stay up to date with any of those changes, again, check out our Discord or check out our Linktree, or, stay up to date with Twitter. So, go ahead and do the command here. Yeah, no, I'm very excited about all the things that we're planning, but it is going to be, kind of shifting and changes. So as we go, just bear with us. We're trying to make the show the best that it can be, and we're very excited about things to come.
We definitely have things planned out that are going to shake things up around here. It's going to be look a little different, probably act a little different.
Hmm.
You might see us in other places beyond just where we've been talking to you guys in, and just trying to really expand. So I think it's going to be great.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
and um, I guess as part of the announcements, since it's not exactly part of the main topic today, we'll cover Arc, the fact that
Oh, yeah.
they completely changed their tune on the news that they announced before when it comes to the new, Ascended and Arc 2 and stuff like that. Do you want to kind of cover that?
So at the end of our last episode, we kind of were feeling a lot better about what they were doing just after kind of looking at it. But I feel like there was one really important thing I missed that I don't think any of us ever mentioned, and that's that bundle we were talking about feeling so good about is was supposed to be Xbox exclusive.
Hmm.
And the community decided that they really didn't like spending money on a game they'd never seen before.
Right.
They have because we don't have any information on what Arc 2 is going to play like or look like or act. We don't know anything. So the community got really mad apparently, and Arc decided to pay attention to it because they were really upset and decided to separate out Arc Survival Ascended from Arc 2, including they're making the price point a little higher, but removing having to pay for the DLC in two separate bundles.
Right.
And now you just pay $10 more for everything Arc is right now.
For Arc
Just
Ascended.
in for Arc Ascended, which is the Unreal Engine 5 version of
Upgrade.
Arc Survival
Yeah.
Evolved.
So so Arc 2 is going to be its own separate thing, and Arc Ascended, it's also going to be its own separate thing, but is going to include the DLCs this time, but for a price point of $60. Um,
And I don't know if they've announced Arc 2's price. I expect it to probably be around $60 as well.
I think
More
so
than
too.
likely.
Or maybe a little less if they are expecting people to buy or get like the pass like they did for the maps and stuff like that. Then maybe they'll
Yeah.
make the base game a little lower. But
I
if
think it depends on what Arc 2 is, though, because we
yeah,
don't know. There's nothing.
yeah, and
And that's, I think, the worry here is we don't have any gameplay. We don't
it's a
have
little
any
interesting
trailers.
that they're doing that because essentially you paid for Arc, you're paying for Arc Ascended, then you're paying for Arc 2, and
Within a year of each other, by the way. Arc
I
Ascended
mean,
comes out in like
supposedly, if
August.
we all know Wildcard, it'll probably take longer. But
They're
yeah,
promising a year
they are.
between Ascended and 2. So they want you to pay $60 to play a game for a year. I imagine it depends on how Arc 2 is, but I imagine a lot of people will stick with Ascended because
I
it's a better version of Survival Evolved.
yeah. So that's kind of a good point. Like I was thinking about what is gonna entice me to move on to Arc 2 if Arc Ascended is gonna be on the same engine that Arc 2 is gonna be. Arc 2 is gonna be made in, or it has been, or whatever.
But better than Survival
But
Evolved.
better than Survival Evolved. So like, what is going to keep like? How are you going to incentivize me spending another 40 to $60
It
when
has
I've
to be
already
a
got
damn good game, right?
for what, for a single player
For
story,
Vin
or for
Diesel?
like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not
we
sure.
all love Vin Diesel, right? Like that's what we're paying for with this, right? It's just to slap Vin Diesel's face on a new story. They are also going to be working on that TV show,
Yeah,
which has quite the cast. To be fair, the
it
cast in that
does.
TV show is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like the people getting involved in it beyond Vin Diesel is insane. We've got people like David Tennant. We've
Mm-hmm.
got there's so many people. Like it's just a list
Yeah,
of
no.
just like big
I was
names.
actually excited when it got announced, where the teaser trailer got released and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, so when is this gonna come
Well,
out? And then it's just we haven't heard shit.
nothing. Well, they read in that first initial thing that they haven't even got a studio to take their thing. which I
Yeah.
thought was really interesting because, I mean, I know I watch a YouTube video that is an animated project that was only the pilot episode posted to YouTube, and it's already picked up by a studio and coming out this year.
Yeah.
Like, like they got a people, but Arc that has all of these huge names in it is still debating. Maybe
Yeah,
they've got a lot of people interested.
I'm wondering because like and then you think about Vox Machina, right? Like that got bought by
Oh
Amazon
yeah,
or
Amazon.
it got released by Amazon Prime and then they instantly got like approved for season 2 and then season 3 and it's like
Mm,
so like that shows a massive hit now
it's
on
actually
Prime.
really good.
Oh yeah, it's
Have you?
great.
Yeah.
If
This animation is so pretty and the characters are
mhm.
funny as hell. Like it's great. I like it a lot.
Yeah, if you're into D&D and or if you're not,
You don't
like
even need to be.
my
Yeah. Like it's
wife,
just a good
yeah,
show.
my wife enjoyed the show, and she doesn't really, deal with D&D or
It was
anything of the sort.
enough of its own thing
Hmm.
to and with its cute characters and storyline that if you didn't know it had anything to do with D&D, you'd still think it's a great show. It's
Yeah,
fun.
no, it's really good. The voice acting, of course, is top notch,
But yeah.
and it's yeah, entertaining show. So on D&D, while we're on it,
Hmm.
we did want to kind of talk a bit about some of the things that have come out since our last conversation with everything and all the drama that was going on. So you did a bit of research and you read on the Creator Summit. So what is it that you can fill us in on?
Well, apparently I decided to close out the Creator Summit page, so give me just a second here because I was a big dummy. Let me find this here.
That's okay.
So what I read through it though. It is basically they had a big summit that they brought a bunch of creators to talk about the future of D&D. Everything from 1D&D to the virtual tabletop to concerns the community has with Wizards of the Coast in general, what they plan to change. They allowed the content creators to talk about what's wrong and what they are concerned about. And honestly, the content creators did not hold back. The Q&A was vicious,
I mean, I can
honestly.
only imagine.
We're talking things like, oh, let me find the really good one because it was crazy. Uh, they mentioned a lot about the lack of confidence and distrust in the community right now.
Hmm.
People were attacked for going to the summit because people are so mad at Wizards of the Coast that the content creators who went to the summit were getting attacked by their communities for being involved with them. Um,
Wow.
yeah, no. Like there people were asking questions like what are you going to put in place for protections to restore the lack of trust the community feels. um a lot of questions were labeled towards trust. How can we trust you when you try to do that? Like
Hmm.
they didn't like there was a lot of heavy-handedness about inclusivity, which, and I mean it's good that they're being more inclusive, but they tended to stir things around, even questions that had nothing to do with it. They kept bringing back around to their inclusivity things.
Yeah.
Like they went off on a tangent at one point that I was like, this has nothing to do with what they were the initial question was. um like the question was really basic, just like I think it had to do with rolling dice. Bluetooth dice is what it was about.
Oh God.
Literally they asked, can we still use Go Dice, what allows Bluetooth dice, with the new tabletop that they're working on? And it went off on a tangent about marginalized and inclusivity and everything about that. And I was like, that had nothing to do with the question. So they kept pulling it around to that. But like one of my favorite questions had to do with uh it was an inclusivity question, but it was with all of this discussion of inclusivity. After having cut the Black Dice Society and other similar BIPOC shows, how can we trust you? Like, it was so. They were literally. And their response. Okay, so they kept going. It's. I know how much it takes to run a show. It's great to talk about equity and inclusion, but money talks. So what about seed money or something? Because a D&D back show means a lot. Pulling the rug out from under us is hard. I want someone who can touch the money to answer this question. And their answer was, I don't know the history. And then the next person came in and was like, it's not about the history, it's about moving forward.
Right.
And they just kind of went off on, this isn't about easy questions. I wasn't here when this was a problem. It was a lot of waffling. I don't really want to answer your question. So that did happen a lot, but it was a great way for the community to try and talk to them, express their concerns, express a lot of stuff that they're worried about. And then they went into more details about what the new books are going to show. A big thing that they talked about was the fact that this is not a new system from 5e. This is not 6e. This is not 5.5. This is not one D&D, as they were trying to say. They're not. This isn't D and Done, which, I mean, we talked about it on the show.
We did, yeah.
Right? It was meant to be its own thing, separate from 5e, but compatible with 5e, but is like a new edition, right? Like, I feel like that's what we talked about when we talked about the OGL stuff.
Right.
One D&D was separate from 5e, but it was its own thing that was compatible with 5e.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's actually, they are continuously saying now that it was never meant to be a new edition. It was never meant to be a replacement or a new thing. One D&D is not its own thing, even though they kept talking about how it was its own thing. It was really, they're just like, no, it's 5e, but you have to rebuy all the books because it added a bunch of stuff to 5e.
Oh my god, of course.
But you have to rebuy all the books. Sorry. Because we gave you artwork. I'm not kidding. At one point they literally say, it'll be bigger, at least 32 pages longer, and maybe 64 pages longer. Not because it'll be a dump truck of words, because it'll have more art and words. That's a quote. I quoted that. Like, okay, so you're making people buy the books over again for some art? Why don't you just release an art book?
Right. Wow.
Yeah, so they went into some details. It was a lot, honestly. There's a lot of questions. It gets into some nitty gritties about the differences between the Dungeon Master Guide, Monster Manual, Player Handbook. But and then kind of waffles back and forth between inclusivity as well, because they are creating their own it's a division for inclusivity. Basically, every step of the way, it's getting sent to somebody to make sure nothing is going to offend anybody in any way, shape, or form. Any way, shape, or form. From if a spell has a name that is slightly offensive, they will change the name of that spell.
Oh boy.
I can't remember what the spell was that they referenced. I think it was like, hold on, I know what it was.
But that's like the that's opening the door for a lot of stuff for them. It's gonna be an issue to keep up with, because anything offends anybody nowadays for any reason.
Feeble Mind, that's the spell. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Feeble Mind is a problematic name.
Why?
I
don't know.
Its inclusion reviews will mention stuff because they send everything to the inclusion reviews. And with that includes not just like rechanging it so monk isn't only represented by Asian culture, but also removing half orc and half elves. And removing the spell Feeble Mind because it has a problematic name.
Right.
I understand what they're trying to do, because they're definitely trying to open the audience up to people who do take offense to those things.
Exactly, yeah.
And I get it. But it also like Alexa literally just said D&D will lose so many people over that
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to cater to every single person possible, and they're never going to be able to do that.
Yeah,
Someone's
well,
going to be mad.
it's funny because it's a conversation that we had, and or that we have often when it comes to, like, for example, we were talking, we were working on our server that we're opening up, and it's like you'll never please everyone, right? Like, no
Mm.
matter what you do, it is impossible to cast a net that'll catch everyone. And it's I'm not sure how I feel about it because anytime that you're trying to be hyper inclusive, you actually end up being exclusive. Um and it
You
just
lose some people
you do
who
lose
are
people.
not
Yeah.
liking the inclusivity of it.
And it's weird because it's like where do we find that balance, right? But there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to be like this is dumb, or this is like why is this a thing? Like, why does it matter? Like, a game is just a game, blah blah blah. There's gonna we're gonna go through each book and through each spell and through each
Literally, they go through actually every word and check to make sure um it is not going to upset anybody.
I don't see how that's gonna end up. It's like, since says this people complaining for the sake of complaining, yeah. And and the thing that happens a lot of the time is that you have this thing, right, where, like, you think about the studio that made Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Like, fans
Mm-hmm.
didn't like the design. And I mean, rightfully so. The first design
I
was
mean, it
fucking
was
awful.
awful. It was so
But
scary.
the fans spoke up, and the studio changed it. What
And it looked so
happens?
much better.
Yeah, it looks so much better, and the movie was actually a hit. What happens at that point is that now you get into, like, spoiling territory, like you're spoiling your audience, and you're giving into audience demands. Is like, so when do you
Well,
draw that line? You
I
know?
feel like that's what Wizards is trying to do, though. Like, that's their whole thing, is they're giving into. Because, okay, to be fair, January fucking sucked for
Hmm.
Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
When the OGL stuff was leaked, and their contracts were leaked with people, and the pushback on Wizards of the Coast was fucking harsh. They lost a lot of money. They lost a lot of players. They lost all of their goodwill. Like, literally all of it. Like, the only people who are still okay with it at this point are people who don't know what happened,
Hmm.
because it was such a bad situation for them. So to come in now, they've basically tried to overcorrect by, okay, we're sorry that we tried to take all of your money and take away all your content and make everything ours so that we could utilize it for our own purposes to over monetize D&D. We're going to make you feel better so that
Yeah.
later we can do that later, but we're not going to talk about later. We're going to talk about now. We're being inclusive.
You know,
Um,
I yeah, it's just it's an interesting thing to kind of witness because um it is two different sides of society, and with hyper inclusion comes, like I said, it makes it a bit divisive. um and like what Sin said, society is kind of on the pushback. There's a lot of things now that are not exactly, I wouldn't say exactly, rejecting the idea of inclusion, but more like bringing things back to, like, a realistic expectations, because I think expectations,
perspective.
yeah, I think expectation is the problem with a lot of people nowadays. Like, they expect and they feel like they're entitled to certain things, and that's not the way that it should be. Like, I shouldn't feel entitled to have a character or whatever look exactly how I want him to look, or you know growing up Hispanic, right? Like, I didn't actually see so many things that were like Hispanic and inclusion and things like that. But I don't give a shit. Like I'm
Well, okay. When it
it's
comes to
nice
that,
it's nice to
though,
see inclusion, right? But like I don't go out of my way to make it such a big deal where like a company has to change everything that they worked on. And I think I kind of feel like this is gonna bite them in the ass, but we'll
well,
see.
something OX just said in chat is I've never understood the need for all of this inclusion sensitivity stuff in TTRPGs. Like it's your game that you're running or playing in. You can literally change or decide not to use whatever it is that you feel offensive, or find one of the thousand systems out there that scratches your itch better. And
Yeah,
that last sentence is the problem for Wizards of the Coast. They don't want you to go find one of the thousands of
yeah, they
systems that
want it to
isn't
be about
them.
them all the time.
They're trying, and that's why so many other things are now doing the orc license, which actually their draft just released. I glanced at it, I didn't read it.
But to OX's point though, in a TTRPG, when you use a rule set or when you use any kind of books or whatever, you are still running your own game. Like you can talk to your DM about calling your spell whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to call it what's in the book because like your character can just refer to it as something else. Like it's just
Mm.
that easy. So like I don't understand what is this need of like what you
Well,
said, but I don't know.
it all kind of comes back around. Like all of this comes back around to them needing to monetize D&D better, and they're
Mm-hmm.
making their own virtual tabletop. So they need you to follow their books, to feel included, to feel that they're listening to people,
Yeah.
that they're taking your emotions into account, so that you'll go play their virtual tabletop and give them
Yeah, and
money.
when I think about when I think about it in a business sense, it makes sense. It does. Uh
Mhm.
you're trying to a business, you're always trying to do what it takes to make more money. Like you'll never you'll never do anything and be like, we're gonna make less money, but let's do it. Like that's not the way any business.
Especially with Hasbro.
Yeah, and so I
Like
get it, but and the step of them making their own virtual tabletop and like a whole system with DnD Beyond and all this stuff, I I get it. It's a logical step. It's a logical thing to do for their company. I just feel like they've already taken some weird steps towards that goal, and the fan base as a whole is like they're basically walking on eggshells with their
yeah,
entire fan base.
everyone is watching everything they do, because even the people in the summit, right? They kept bringing up the fact that they're getting attacked for playing this game now. The community is pushing back against Wizards of the Coast games at all.
Yeah.
They don't want to see it anymore. They're tired of Wizards of the Coast pulling a Magic the Gathering. As we all know what happened in Magic the Gathering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? Sin, if you're available to talk, would you mind coming on the show just to have a discussion? Because I know that you're an avid user of D&D Beyond, and I think you have a lot of their content and stuff like that. You DM some games, and I would like to kind of get your perspective as it is, or you can just type it in chat and we can read it. It's fine. Don't mean to just put you on the spot, but
Yeah, no,
I,
come into the chat. Are you on our Discord? I don't think he's on our Discord.
I'm not sure. But can you like invite him if anything? I would like to
I'll invite
see
him.
how you feel like, and did you ever consider giving up D&D Beyond for any reason? Did you consider quitting? How did you feel about all of these steps that they're taking to better monetize their company? So
I
we're
sent him
just
an invite.
okay.
Can pop in for a minute. Yeah, I sent him an invite to the Discord.
All right, cool. We'll get you in here and we'll
There
just.
he is. We'll just have a talk, because I know that he was literally talking to me earlier about. Oh, there he is. I'll pull
Mhm.
him in. Oh, you did it. Hi,
Hello, sir.
Sin.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Oh, just for context, everyone, Sin is another admin on Nerd Haven, so that's why we kind of are like, hey, come join us. But
Yeah.
he is also D&D. You play D&D a lot, so I know you
Yeah.
literally talked to me earlier about playing D&D
Just
later.
recently,
Oh, yeah.
Citizen actually was talking about some D&D Beyond stuff and how, you know, he deals with some of his games and the content and stuff that he has on D&D Beyond. So, um, just from that perspective, Sin, like, how has all of this stuff with, you know, the the announcements that they've made, the changes that they're planning on making, how has that affected you as a user? Because D&D Beyond was a great tool, and it still is, I think. But how does it feel for somebody that's more on that side?
Are you talking about in terms of like the inclusion changes, or are you talking more like the open user agreement
Well,
that whole debacle?
yeah, let's start with that. How did that affect your opinion on whether to stay subscribed or not? Period. If you are subscribed, I'm not sure if you just use it or bought.
Oh no, no, I have a lot of my content through D&D Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when the whole open user stuff started coming out, that was actually a bit of a worry, right? Because they're looking for ways to, it seems like, monetize D&D, and I get that, right, as a
Mm-hmm.
company. But to like put claims on people that like actually broadcast, if you make so and so much money, then uh, Wizards of the Coast is entitled to your creativity.
Right.
That's definitely was pretty sour in the D&D community, because even though like D&D is a medium for all this, and we're grateful for the rule set, a lot of it, like you take like some of the big ones like Critical Role, for example, they just use it. It's essentially their brand, their RP, everything, and all they do is just use a few monsters here and there, and Matt actually changes it, and a lot of DMs do.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they put pressure on with that agreement, they're gonna lose a lot of people in D&D. People are gonna switch over to Pathfinder or something else.
People already have, yeah, because when
Mhm.
that all came out, a lot of like now they're making the orc license, which
Mm-hmm.
is a direct backlash to what they tried to do with the OGL.
Yeah.
Which includes a lot of other games, which actually opens you up to being able to do exactly what like Pathfinder did, make a game based on a game,
Right.
but it's its own game. And now with the orc license, you can use any game that's under the orc license and mix and match and take what pieces you want and make a game that is entirely your own. And you can publish it and sell it.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? It's like kind of like what Sin just hinted at right now. It's like with Critical Role. The statement was said, and I've read this several times. It's like D&D needs Critical Role more than Critical Role needs D&D, and
Yes.
they literally have the platform, the fan base, the following to do whatever the fuck they want. they
Oh,
don't
absolutely.
they don't need D&D, and but when it comes to like what you just said, they are using the creativity of others to monetize, and there is a certain way of doing that, or like agreement or partnership, but the way that they were kind of going about that seemed a bit like schemish. Like it just seemed a bit dirty to me.
It's crazy. D&D, because in my opinion, Critical Role and some of the others with
Hmm.
what is it that Brendan Lee Mulligan DMs is wonderful. But
Dimension 20, I think.
Dimension 20, exactly. Like though they brought D&D back, and it's
Hmm.
alive more than ever. People are buying the source books because of this and that, and they need to. The Wizards of the Coast need to be careful and play their cards right, because Critical Role has gotten so big they have their own
Mm.
publishing company,
Yep.
and they've even put out hints that they might even be creating a D&D based game, as they've made other games. So
Uh-huh.
Wizard of the Coast better be careful. You know what I'm saying?
And that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why they're doing what they did at the Creator Summit, though, is they're trying to be careful. They're backing up, they're stepping back, they're overcorrecting to try and correct for the problem of the OGL and losing a bunch of their goodwill.
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely backfire, which it already has. They lost,
Mm.
millions of dollars in subscribers and stuff like that. I, but like when you really think about it, they the people or the fans that love people like Critical Role, they don't they don't fall in love with the game they're playing. They fall in love with the personalities and the actors and the story, and it's very easy to just create something else. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but they can just do their own thing, and a lot of creators are going to go that route if you push them back against the ropes. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. The way I feel is it's just a medium and it's a very
Hmm.
small medium. Like, if you take into consideration what really goes on in a Critical Role episode, you may have, there's many episodes where there's no combat whatsoever. It's just a personality,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly. A lot of the times, uh, they're just role playing. Matt is narrating a story, you know, DMing it like as he should, but there's very little times that, you know, when you think about episode to episode, the percentage of times that they are actually using rule sets and monsters that belong to like DnD and things like that, the comparison is, you know, leans a lot more on Matt's creativity and the world he created than it does on the D&D rule set.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
But
am very interested in what Critical Role actually did for the tabletop community, which I feel like it kind of like Alexo kind of mentioned it a little bit there in that last comment. It had an adverse effect of bringing too many people into the community with
mhm.
unrealistic expectations and demands. Specifically, everybody wants a game that's like Matt Mercer's games, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's going to
everyone
happen.
wants
Hmm.
that story element. That is what he kind of makes Tandy look like it's really cool. But then you have to remember, like, all of those people are professional improv people and actors and people who are really good at what they're doing
Uh-huh.
to be able to make that, and they make it for entertainment value. So it's one of those things that's like Critical Role was really good for D&D. If they made their own thing, they would people would follow them
Yeah,
because
I
people really
think
like them.
exactly. People like them and Critical Role for D&D, it like I'm sorry. My dog just went apeshit. Um Critical Role did so many amazing things for like it brought a lot of people. It did go more mainstream. You know, people on Twitch that happen to just watch the streams or hear about the show or even watch the animated series on Amazon. These are people that are now interested in playing D&D and these and go look up books and look up content and things like that. So that benefits Wizards of the Coast all out of, you know, hey, I watched these people and they were really cool and they were funny, you know. um and the same thing goes, we actually wanted to talk about the movie. I'm not sure if either of you have seen the movie.
I have not.
I haven't seen it yet. I've seen some of the older ones, though.
So I just watched the most recent movie. It was very entertaining. It was like seeing a campaign just take place and you could kind of see where a character would have had a bad role or like a good role. It was done very well. The humor was on point, and I really enjoyed it. It was great, and that type of thing is content that only benefits the game itself. And you know, when you think about Wizards of the Coast and what they can get out of it in the long term, but then you have, you know, the negative things that are going on with the company and all of the feedback, and it's like what side is winning here, you know?
They're trying to
Oh,
monetize it the wrong way. You know, like, I get it. They want a bigger slice of the pie for what they provide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but in all honesty, like, they've gotten so much free press. If you think about it, so much free press, so much. I mean, I've spent a ton of money buying source books for D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
Like, literally, all they have to do is just provide more content. That's it, and just ride this wave. They're going to make money.
Yeah.
well, we're gonna run into the problem of MTG though, like with like giving too much and kind of devaluing what's there,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is part of the reason why they've been so hesitant to add to what they already have. But I don't know. I just feel like what they're trying to do, everyone's become hyper aware of the corporate aspect of everything they're doing. Like hyper aware.
I think that
Everything they
that's
do is going to be analyzed now.
yeah. I think that that's kind of one of the big problems is that a lot of this thing, a lot of like the business side of this used to just be in the background, right? Like it was just
Mhm.
stuff we didn't know until we got hit in the face with it. and it's
And
like
now
maybe we
everything
should
from
pay attention to what's going on.
everything from the movies to the movie to this new books to the virtual tabletop, everyone is hyper analyzing. They were really hoping that the movie would help relieve some tension on them after the OGL. They were like, okay, we'll just ride the wave until the movie. Everyone will like it. They'll come back to D&D. But now everyone's sitting here going, okay, now what?
Yeah, see the way that I see some of the like the original stuff that people had backlash with was like, let's say for example, if I'm playing football in my backyard and I'm streaming it live and the NFL comes after me because I'm playing football in my backyard and they want money out of my stream, and it's like it's your rules but it's not your content. Like what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you create fine, like it whatever. But when you think about like there was a guy that made the argument of like you'll never be able to use IP from anything else like Marvel and DC and blah 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 and make your own content out of it. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not the way that it is. Like there is no Superman in D&D. There's no Gandalf. They're sorcerers, Like if I use Gandalf in my own content, then yes, that is a copyrighted character. But if you're just talking about a wizard and I make my own wizard, you can't copyright my wizard. What the fuck?
That kind of all boils down to the rules around copywriting game mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
which is like essentially there's certain things that they can and cannot copyright that gives them the ability to go after you, which is why the OGO was so important. It allowed you to use their stuff and make money off of it.
Yeah.
And they try to keep bringing up like you said, Marvel, you can't use Marvel and make something and make money off of it. No, but they provided a document that said it was never going to end that allowed you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If Disney did the same thing, people would be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Is Disney never said you can use our content to make money off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sin, as a user, has it kind of made you like back off at all? Has it like worried you that the money that you're like pumping in, like eventually you're like, fuck this? How do you feel as a player and as a DM, like
Mhm.
seeing all this and how they're kind of treating their player base?
Well, it's a little worrying because when you go through D&D Beyond, it's like all the money you've put in, it's essentially on D&D Beyond.
Right.
Like you can't pull out like all the different manuals, the different guides, etc., etc. So it's worrying if you want to put more money into it if it's not going to be a thing that lasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Because you're not getting anything physical out of it at all.
yeah, it's just going to be pretty much lost. Essentially just lost money.
Mhm.
Digital is what I have.
Well,
Um,
isn't there been talks about D&D Beyond going away in favor of the virtual tabletop?
Well, see, that's the thing too. So D&D, there is a tabletop called Above VTT, which is an extension for Chrome. It uses D&D Beyond, which is what I use, and it's actually pretty nice. I mean, if D&D Beyond, I don't know if they could ever split from I know they're a separate entity from Wizards of the Coast, but they only exist because of D&D, right?
Right.
That's all
Wizards
they
of the Coast
provide.
bought D&D Beyond.
Yeah, so there's no splitting them, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't
But
know.
what they're
It's a
wanting to
little
do is
worrisome.
funnel people to the virtual tabletop, though.
Yeah, but then
once
you
it comes
think of
out.
exactly, but then you think about like, for example, like Tailspire, which is for anybody that's not familiar, it's another like virtual tabletop, type of game, that you can use to play D&D or any kind of tabletop game. But there's plugins for that you can also use like D&D Beyond, and like your dice rolls will kind of go over to Tailspire, and
Mhm.
so like when you think about that kind of thing is how is it going to affect the people that have spent their money on Tailspire or the developers of Tailspire or anything like that with other platforms, are they gonna drown in this like new deal? You know, like I know that the percentage wasn't like they're taking everything, but how fair is it? You know, when you really think about it at all.
They put a cap on growth is the thing. Is they made it so after you get to a certain point, you can no longer grow. You have to start striking deals.
It's like
with
500,000,
Wizards
right?
of the Coast.
500,000 a year.
Yeah, something like that. If you make five, and that's not what you make. That's how much you bring in. So
Yeah.
that doesn't include cost of actually running your business that made that money.
And
It's
I know,
crazy that,
Everything.
yeah,
right? Because like if you're bringing in that much money, you're streaming on Twitch. It's like you're targeting essentially Critical Role, Dimension 20,
exactly.
and other things who automatically do free advertising. And you would assume they already have deals with Wizards of the Coast,
Mhm.
right? So why are they hitting them, twice? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because they literally talked about having sweetheart deals with those big people who already existed. People who like Critical Role.
Which is an
they
even
presented
bigger
them.
slap in the face for everyone else.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
if
No
I'm
one
not
else
critical,
can get to that level.
exactly. If I'm not Critical Role, but I am, making a lot of money, like, am I part of that sweetheart deal? Like, are you going to give me a good deal that doesn't qualify to anybody else? Or like, at any point, if anybody grows to that certain, tier, do they just get a special deal? Then what the fuck is the point of it?
Yeah. Don't make any sense at all.
It doesn't, but you already see other companies as well. There's like Hero Forge, I'm sure that you guys are familiar with, to make minis and stuff like that. They replace some of the names and some of the things on their website, because it kind of referred to, creatures or whatever in D&D. So they're like, fuck that. Like, I don't need to call this creature what you call this creature, and I'm fine.
Yeah,
and it's crazy they have.
said we're not doing.
It's crazy they have copyrights on some of these names too, because a lot of their creatures and things are just plays off of various myths and tales.
Just like
in
generic
their
shit.
own history, right? So
But a lot of it actually has a lot of like, but the fact is it's a specific monster or a specific place. I think mostly it's just monsters with D&D that they were able to trademark.
like think about it this way, like so we'll take a trademark monster, we'll take a hag, right? How could they trademark a hag? Like you can't, right? Like that's like in pretty much how many different cultures, right? Even with the exact name of hag, or Baba Yaga, right? Like
yeah, exactly. It's like
just
things that how how can you do that? Like if I want to make a movie about a chupacabra, I could make a movie about a chupacabra. Like it doesn't belong to anybody. What the fuck?
Yeah, or like ancient red dragon. I mean, how can they do that? Like dragons, exist. I mean, I guess maybe like Tiamat, perhaps.
But when there's a will, there's a way, because kind of like I designed some t-shirts and stuff like that with some owls and with like different color scarves and stuff like that, and Warner Brothers took them all down because they're like, this is related to Harry Potter, and I'm like, they're owls wearing scarves.
Yeah.
What the fuck? So they took down all of my designs. But it's like, at what point is it these companies just kind of fucking flexing on smaller creators?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
They basically said, we don't want you to grow to the point that you're a competitor, because that's exactly what Pathfinder did.
Because that's what happened with Pathfinder, exactly, and that's what's going to happen with
Paizo went
Critical Role if they don't play their cards right.
Yeah, because Paizo basically said, hey, we're going to use this, and then we're going to change it enough. And Paizo did something that just blew my mind. Everyone was so worried because with the OGL being removed, they basically were like, well, what if does Paizo have to go through their entire book and change everything that was still a reference to the OGL? Turns out 2E, they already did that when they started making it. They had
like they knew
nothing under the OGL that could be the only thing they had. The reason why it was under the OGL is so other people could use their stuff to make new stuff.
It's like somebody was smart enough to be like, hey, Guys, what would happen if they decide
Well,
and it's like, oh, okay, well, let's just do something about that in the meantime.
funny story, the people who helped run Paizo and make Paizo were some of the people who made the OGL.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So they went, well, let's make it so that we don't have to rely on it, but other people can use it. And then this all went down, and they're like, okay, well, we don't need it. Like, we'll just
Hmm.
make our own shit. Here's the orc license, which I
And then the
absolutely adore the
orc.
name of.
Yeah, the orc one is the.
Orc, orc, orc.
But yeah, it's just interesting stuff. I I absolutely adore D&D as a whole, the system, and but it like I was saying before, it can be replaced easily by a different game because most of the time it's your experience with your friends or your other players or the person that's DMing that makes the game, So it at
Mm.
the mechanics almost don't matter at the end of the day. So it's just like where do we go from here?
I like
And
how Alexa put it, actually. I feel like the corporate mindset shifted from we provide games and game resources to we provide entertainment now and want paid for it.
hmm
Even though they themselves aren't providing the entertainment, the GM and players are. They're only
right.
providing the game. Yeah, exactly. That's basically what you just said. But it's like they suddenly are trying to make money off of the people who it's not entertainment. They're not making the entertainment. They made the rules.
Yeah. It's kind of like if the the developers of Conan wanted to come after us because we're role playing and they want money out of our role play.
Our role play
So
streams. Yeah.
like that's kind of what it is, right? We're using, I mean, it's a little different, right? Because we're using it head on, but when it comes to like storytelling and stuff like that, it's like you guys have nothing to do with this at all.
Mm.
This is just a medium. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're going too far. You've already paid to use their assets. Right? I've already paid for this Dungeons and the Dragons book. I actually paid for like 6 or 7 of them. You know,
hmm
so I get I'm able to use this content, and if it just so happens that it's streamed, this ain't your territory anymore. I've paid for it, right?
exactly. Yeah.
And prepare for more paying because they want to release a whole new Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, and Player Handbook in the near future.
Conan marketing team enters. Yeah. I don't know. It's it's definitely an interesting place to be. It's an interesting mess to witness from the outside, and we'll see where it ends up. Because I know that we're having these conversations. There's people that are very passionate about it and upset, but I know that in the back end, they are not treating the big people like Critical Role and Dimension 20. They're not treating them the same way. Like the text on paper does not mean the same thing to those people. Like
Yeah.
we just have to assume that.
Sweetheart deals. All
Yeah.
of it's sweetheart deals. Once you get to a certain level, like there's no reason for it to be on the paper because they're going to talk to you anyway. A
Right.
big part of the OGL shift was finding out how much money you were making so that they could talk to you when you got to.
That's crazy.
So, but the summit, a lot of the people, and going back to what the original thing about this was,
Mhm.
the summit definitely the creators didn't give them leeway. There was a lot of why can we trust you? How do we trust you in the future? What are you going to do to help us when we're being attacked by our community for being anywhere associated with you?
And they
And I just
basically
felt
just
like
kind of avoided answering.
they instead of talking about helping people and talking about what they did and being open about it, the conversation just kept funneling around to inclusivity, how we're going to be
Mhm.
more inclusive, change terms, change spells, change classes to make it less offensive.
Yeah.
And that's everything it became. It's just we're going to make everything less offensive.
And part of me, like, I hate thinking about like from the business side, but yeah, of course they will. Of course that's what they were doing. It makes complete sense to try to turn things around or redirect things and only focus on one thing. Like there's only so many talking points that they probably covered in a meeting. And
The guy that got to talk, he seemed woefully unprepared for some of these
oh
questions.
god, I can only imagine.
He was really just everything he said was funneling it back around to the talking points he had. And I think part of it, though, if we're recognizing this, is because everyone is hyper aware that they're corporate now.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't for us; they're for their bottom line.
They're for the business, yeah.
But Creator Summit was definitely interesting. They provide a lot of information. There is links to, you can read the whole thing. You don't have to listen to the interviews. You can just read it all typed out. It was a lot, but it was actually rather interesting. I liked seeing the community start to push back against them, and they didn't pull punches in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly what people were wanting to talk about, though. And I could tell there was probably a lot of people who didn't want to bring up the OGL because they were worried about how that would reflect back to them. Especially because there were creators, there were content creators, they were invited there, and the people that were invited there were the ones who were less angry about the OGL than the others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
There's
I mean,
very
I could
limited
see
amount of people who got to go.
I could see the type of thing being like, damn, I should probably pull my punches because I don't know how this is gonna affect me and my business. Like, and that's shitty. That is almost like a form of blackmail. like you don't know how the backlash is gonna affect you, or how you're gonna suffer from speaking out what you truly feel. Like, that's shitty.
Yeah, that's why I feel like a lot of the Creator Summit focus so much on inclusivity and how they're going to make things more inclusive to other cultures, because the real questions people were asking were sitting on, and how can we trust you? It was asked like 3 or 4 times. How can we trust you? Because we're not seeing that you're helping us. And a lot of the answers were, well, we're working on it.
Yeah. Well, I think we're short on time here, but this is something that's just gonna keep going and going until there is a resolution. But it's nice to know that there is part of the community out there that's not afraid to push back. And as we saw all the people suspending subscriptions and things like that, they're, if they're not happy, they're letting their voice be heard.
I think the figure eventually was like 40,000 people canceled their subscriptions.
Yeah.
Because a leaked memo came out, or an email came out saying the only way they'll listen is if they don't get money off of you. And so everyone went, cancel your subscriptions, and they did. And suddenly we're hearing positive things from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
So money talks.
I mean, they were kind of looking the other way for a while, so
they didn't say a word after it leaked.
A reaction is
silent.
A reaction. But anyway, is there anything else that you want to fill people in on, Nyx?
Oh, well, Sin, do you have anything you want to plug before we do all of our plugs?
Oh no, if you're interested in role play on Conan servers, Nerf Haven RP, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chaos.
Yeah,
Friday.
We just talked about it. So this Friday, there's Nerd Haven. That's the one that we're all admins on, and we're gonna be debuting on Friday. So we're all excited. But if it's not your type of theme or anything like that, you can check out the rest of our directory on the Discord and find something that you might be happy with. But give us a shot. You might find yourself at home.
I posted in chat again. There is a link tree to all of our stuff that's also included on podcast if you're listening to this afterwards, or in the chat to watch. We have it on YouTube. We have it on Spotify. There's a bunch of other things that we've added it to. We're going to be continuing to grow. Look for the exciting changes that'll be coming in the next few weeks, months-ish, because we have a lot that's going to be changing and shifting, and hopefully bringing in some more people, because we're at that point. We have a solid base here, guys. It's really exciting.
Yeah,
you expect to see some cool shit happen.
Yep, we've kind of taken off with the show and having a lot of fun with it and establish ourselves already. So now it's just a point of growing it as it is, and that's what we're all about now. And we have a couple of things coming up. So like what Nixie said, check out the link tree, check out the Twitter. We'll probably post out some updates, and more than anything, probably Discord, because that's probably not going to change.
No,
So
that's already its own thing.
that's our home. Yeah.
You're going to be noticing some changes if you keep coming here for
Mhm.
updates. You may need to go jump onto the Discord instead for updates in the future.
But yeah, like always, guys, thank you for joining us. Sin, thank you for just joining at the last second there with like
Yeah, thank you,
no
Sin.
advance notice at all.
Thank you for having me.
I
We
appreciate
were like,
your
come
input.
join us, please.
Well, yeah, you know, it instantly clicked that I was like, oh, Sin is a D&D player, and he's actually a user of D&D Beyond, so it's like, let's bring him in. But thank you for joining. I know that it was kind of last minute there, but we appreciate you. And
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
thank you guys for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.